What's up, guys? It's Brian here. In this video, I'm going to be covering exactly how I used to be insecure once and how Muay Thai has allowed me to overcome that. So if you guys don't know, in the past couple of videos, I've been sharing exactly how I used to suffer through severe insecurity. I used to be very unconfident when it comes down to, talking to girls, handling myself in confrontations, maintaining eye contact, just having a conversation with a normal person. I would not be able to do any of that. I'd completely fold. Going through middle school, high school, into my early adulthood, I just never had the mental fortitude to be able to handle those type of conversations or confrontations in any way, shape, or form, and it completely sucked. So, I'm just gonna sit here and tell you guys exactly how Muay Thai has completely changed the scope of my life in that aspect. So, I'm gonna give you guys a quick story of a couple times, I've had to, for example, overcome confrontation and whatnot. So I remember in high school, for example, there are several times, guys would come up to me and pick on me, and I just had no idea what to do. I would just stand there and I would just freeze. I wouldn't say anything. I would just completely just not know what to do. And a lot of time I'd go home feeling disgusted in myself. Why didn't I stick up for myself? Why didn't I say this? Why didn't I say that? Why didn't I do this? And a lot of time it led me into a loop of just, I felt completely depressed. And, I just felt like that throughout my entire life. Even when talking with girls, a lot of times I wouldn't even know what to say to a girl. We'd go out on a date and I wouldn't even know how to express myself or just have a conversation with her. And it just completely sucked. Especially going out and about, going to restaurants, the server would be talking to me. I'd be looking down at the menu because I wouldn't even want to look at him in the eyes. Or just little things, going to the supermarket and not wanting to ask the worker there where, for example, the yogurt is, or where a certain item was in the store, because I didn't want to fumble over my words and embarrass myself. Just little things, you know what I mean? And I've always just been insecure in that fashion, especially the walking around, let's say, in public areas and there's a lot of people around, groups of men, not knowing exactly how to handle myself if something were to happen. A lot of times, for example, when I was back in high school, me and one of my friends, we went out with these two other girls. I had no relation with them, but they were my friends. And of course, me, I didn't say anything because I was completely scared and whatnot. But we were walking around on the beach. It's a bad time. It's around 10 p.m. and there was a group of guys. They started catcalling the girls. I didn't know what to say. I was completely in shock. I had no idea what to say, and I completely froze. You know what I mean? It's just little situations like that, like how to handle myself in those situations. Now I know. Shoot, of course, if there's a group of guys and they're catcalling a girl, it's a tough situation to go ahead and actually do something about it, because then you're putting that significant other or that person in harm's way. And of course, you don't want to do that. But at the time, I really look back at it. I'm like, damn, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I say that? And it's just those little things of just realizing okay, I could have the confidence. I could have, the capability to be able to handle myself and protect that significant other or that person if it got to a situation where it had to turn into a physical confrontation, right? And with Muay Thai, from moving from California, I used to live in California for 10 years, Rancho Cucamonga. I moved there to Florida. And from moving there to Florida, I found this gym, Vortex Muay Thai, and I was completely scared. I tell you what, I obviously did not know how to handle myself in confrontations, but I had to put myself out there. I had to put myself and find a gym. I had to go and take those initial steps in actually progressing, because I knew there was no way out of it. I can't just, cocoon myself in comfort and just stay in my room and not do anything about it, right? I had to take those initial steps to take myself out of my comfort zone and put myself in the most uncomfortable situations as possible, right? So I found this gym, I joined, I started training. Every single class, I'd come to class holy shit, what the fuck am I doing? I'd be sparring it's a scary environment, of course, like every man, that suffers insecurities and is very unconfident in himself. Going to a gym like this, going to gyms and sparring and such, it's scary, okay? I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that, like, oh my gosh, like, no guy is gonna, experience these type of, emotions when stepping foot in the gym. It's not true. It's a very, like, oh shit environment, right? Because you're actually getting punched, you're actually dealing with physical confrontation. So I found this gym. I started training here. I took numerous fights. I won IKF championships in 2021, and going in and finally devoting myself to being like, okay, I've been training at this gym for a while. I'm gonna go and really test myself now and put myself in a ring, in an environment, a tournament, and see what I can do, right? And now I look back on my high school self and I'm like, damn, my high school self would have never done this. But dealing with the pressure of training for a fight, stepping foot in that ring, and allowing myself to evolve and become a man in this sport, in this combat sport, it really has allowed me to open up and compare it to different things. So for example, right, stepping foot into a ring, stepping foot into a cage, and you're literally locked in there with somebody else that's trying to kill you, try to take your head off. You compare that to a situation of going to a restaurant and speaking to the worker there, right? It's like nothing. It's a piece of cake. You go to speak, for example, to a girl, right? Now you look at it, it's a piece of cake, right? Because you've been in those situations where it's top-notch, shit. You know what I mean? You're in the shit. You're in the trenches, right? You've been in the gutter. I don't know. I'm trying to go with that analogy, but you guys know what I mean, right? It's like the same analogy, like pressure builds diamonds, right? So for example, you putting yourself in the most uncomfortable position possible, right? And now you compare that to the daily activities throughout your life. You become more confident in those situations. So when it comes down to speaking to people, maintaining eye contact with people, because your capabilities and how you can handle yourself if shit hit the fan, right? Muay Thai has allowed me to build a lot of confidence in that aspect. So I think when it comes down to me stepping foot in a gym and finding a gym and sticking at it, training and whatnot, and then taking fights, and really putting myself in my deepest, darkest fear, that kind of snowballed and has allowed me to overcome other fears that I had, which was speaking to a girl. And I finally had my first girlfriend of 4 years, who's going to be my future wife. I love her so much. And I'm so grateful because, if I probably didn't get into Muay Thai, I probably wouldn't have found love. If I didn't get into Muay Thai, I'd probably be still in my room, playing video games and not doing anything with my life, just being cocooned in my room, being an insecure, unconfident man and not progressing with anything. But no, Muay Thai has completely changed the scope of my life, and it can definitely do the same for you. All you have to do is just take that initial step, find a gym, find a coach that truly believes in you, trusts you, and even when you feel completely scared, even when you feel completely unconfident, insecure, still take that step, one foot after the other, and proceed to follow through with what you're setting your goals for. You know what I mean? Now, of course, I do recommend, when going through Muay Thai and training and sparring, potentially later down the road, you take a fight or whatnot. I feel like every man should be able to put himself in an uncomfortable situation like that, where you have to handle yourself one-on-one, enclosed, where you're stuck, where there's nowhere you can go. And I feel like every man should experience that, because that does build a level of confidence and takes a lot of guts for you to go ahead and take that initial step and taking that step in the ring. And I promise you, once you do, you will feel so much more confident about yourself. Win or lose that fight, you will feel so much more confidence, and I promise over time, the compound effect will start to build, and you will begin to be having more not confrontations. Of course, when you're a fighter, you don't want to go out and start picking fights with everybody. You actually become a lot more calmer, because you can handle yourself. But more conversations, maintaining eye contact, and slowly start building those things as you go. But yeah, all right. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I appreciate it.